Just because a game comes from a major studio and is part of a well-established franchise does not mean it can't be a gem, as sometimes, whether it be to bad word of mouth or just not being what fans wanted, even the big dogs of gaming can be overlooked. So on today's episode, I'm going to focus on 10 big name games that don't get the love they deserve.
I've long waited for this moment. With your death, I will find peace.
Even I am guilty of skipping this one upon release, so I won't judge you if you did too, as at the time, even though I was a huge fan of Rocksteady's Arkham Asylum and its sequel, the lukewarm reception Origins received from gaming journos made me really question if it was worth me spending my hard-earned beer money on a game that could possibly taint the franchise. But after recently giving it a go, I can tell you I was a fool. A foolish fool, goddammit, as Origins not only features all of the bat-themed shenanigans that made the first two games so great, Origins also boasts one of the best and most gripping storylines out of all the Arkham games. The game was largely written off down to the fact that it was developed by a different studio and that they replaced the voices of the late, great Kevin Conroy and the always superb Mark Hamill with different voice actors, but for me, at least, I think it works, as this is an origin story of a younger, much more angry and inexperienced Bruce Wayne, and the voice work really does show that. This game also features some of the best interpretations of Batman's vast rogue gallery to ever grace our screens, and the boss fights are immensely satisfying. So yeah, honestly, Origins is just a great game that doesn't deserve the hate it gets. It may not reinvent the wheel gameplay wise, but it's well worth sinking some hours into for the storytelling alone. Don't waste your money on Gotham Knights. Go out and get this instead.
I present to you the death of the Batman.
Gotham's gonna burn!
You need a new hobby.
My name, by the way, is Dante. But you can call me Dante the Demon Killer. Has a nice ring to it, don't you think?
The Devil May Cry reboot, simply titled DMC, quickly alienated its audience by revealing a Dante that was far removed from what gamers had grown accustomed to. But if you look past the obnoxiously emo Dante wannabe and bad attempts at edgy humour, DMC opens up into a visually distinct, visceral good time that bleeds love for the franchise. The moment-to-moment action never stops. The combat is a blood-covered dance of acrobatic combos, bullets and swords. The game's world and enemies are meticulously designed, and the overall story is pretty solid. If the game wasn't a DMC reboot, and instead its entirely own IP, then I'm sure it wouldn't have been so harshly scrutinised and would be one of the top slashers on the console.
You looking for a fight? Here I am.
Darkness is your ally. Would you use silence to bring chaos?
Splinter Cell Blacklist was quite simply blacklisted by everyone upon release and was so poorly received that the franchise was put on ice up until recently. Sure, the game still has elements of the often maligned Conviction, but unlike Conviction, Blacklist manages to find a harmonious balance between the action and the stealth and combines them seamlessly to give players something that feels distinctly familiar, yet different in a way that breathes new life into Sam Fisher's ever-aging legs. The level design is exceptional, the enemy AI is cunning and cleverly adapts to however the gamer chooses to play, and the calculated risk and reward stealth gameplay is unrivaled. If Convict put you off the series and you can't wait for the remake, Blacklist will surprise you and scratch that stealthy itch. Trust me.
Who the hell are you? CIA? Delta?
Welcome to 4th Echelon.
A A Metal Gear game starring the ever-divisive character known as Raiden that strips back all the stealth in favour of balls to the wall, all-out cutting, slicing and dicing action was always going to be a difficult sell to anyone but the extremely die-hard Metal Gear fans. Yet, thanks to Platinum Games' knack for crafting extremely fluid hack-and-slash combat mechanics, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance is a crazy good time that will have you grinning from ear to ear throughout. Sure, stealth is an option, but why would you want to when the combat is so outlandish and gleefully satisfying? The game may be short, and the story your typical Metal Gear nonsense, but the sophisticated, cutting mechanic is something you have to experience.
I've always valued your friendship, Leon.
Mr. President!
Resident Evil 6 is largely considered the black sheep in the mainline Resi series, thanks to it being one of the most outrageously silly entries to date, which is quite a feat considering Resi 5 had you punching goddamn boulders. But Resi 6 was like, nah, hold my beer. Not only are we going to dial up the cheese, action, and monsters tenfold, we will also give you a logo that looks like a giraffe doing something rather rude. Don't believe me? Google it yourself. You have been warned though. Anyway, ignoring all that, if you turn your brain off and don't think about how stupid it all is, Resi 6 is an extremely fun romp, and it's Frankenstein's monster mix of ideas that tried to cater to just about everyone becomes oddly charming. Get a mate round and revel through the absurd, cheese-filled roller coaster in co-op. You'll thank me later.
Resident Evil 6.
Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts is not what any fans of the franchise wanted. And because of that, many gamers, myself included, either ignored it or gave it a go, shrugged our shoulders, and moved on. But that's not to say it's not a great game. It is, it's just not the game we'd hoped for. But if you can ignore the Banjo and Kazooie part of the title and enjoy Nuts and Bolts for what it is, you will find an imaginative, creative experience that lets you explore and come up with your wildest creations your way. And it's kind of funny that the game is not held in higher esteem, as these days a lot of the blueprint, crafting gameplay mechanics were way ahead of their time and are now a staple of why games like Minecraft and Fortnite are so goddamn popular. The game is also drop dead gorgeous, with an extremely unique art style, and even though it may not include the 3D platforming that made the OG game such a hit, the humour and charm of those games are still ever present here. It still probably won't be for everyone, but if building ridiculous vehicles with complete creative freedom so you can take on the game's many challenges exactly how you want to sounds like your cup of tea or pint of beer, then this one may just be for you.
Banjo-Kazooie, Nuts and Bolts.
Bring it.
Stealth executing dinosaurs. Is there really anything more to say? Yup, Turok lets you sneak up on prehistoric beasties and take them out silently. If that doesn't tickle your fancy, check your pulse, you may be dead. Firstly, I could recommend this game alone for its intro cutscene, which is not only cinematically beautiful, but is also better than all the Sonic cartoons and movies combined. When your core fanbase just wants to go fast as possible, and the main selling point of your game is to slow things down and fight, well, no wonder Sonic Unleashed got overlooked when it blasted onto consoles. And look, I hear ya. I know this is the Sonic game where you turn into a werehog, but hear me out, as Sonic Unleashed is up there with the best 3D Sonic games available. The nighttime sections may be a pretty basic, repetitive, button mashing slog, but there is still a healthy amount of variety sprinkled into these sections that don't often get talked about. But I urge you to overlook these sections, as everything else here is a true gorgeous treat that is blisteringly fast and exhilaratingly challenging. And that's without me even mentioning the variety of levels that are also distinct and visually different from one another. And the other thing that makes this game a standout is in its storytelling and world building that introduces new and familiar faces that have a genuine depth to them not seen in many newer Sonic titles. Characters here feel deep and smartly layered and even extremely charming. It really is hard not to fall in love with the game's world, characters and story. And Unleashed really does deal with some quite mature themes at times, which is a nice addition. If playing as a werehog made you pass on this one, then I urge you to revisit it, as it's so much more than just that werehog Sonic game it was labelled as.
The kingdom's final hope lies within a mysterious warrior.
Both Prince of Persia games are absolute gems for the Xbox 360, and were mostly forgotten or ignored thanks to the rise of the Assassin's Creed games. But for this video, I've decided to talk about the 2008 reboot, as this game was incredibly divisive when it was revealed to the world, thanks to a drastically different art style and a new AI partner mechanic that didn't seem like a good fit for a free-flowing, acrobatic good time. Then upon release, the game's beauty, charm, and captivatingly fluid, continuous moment-to-moment movement and combat were ignored in favour of writing the game off thanks to its lack of challenge. And yeah, sure, the game is a tad too easy and holds your hand throughout, but it's the journey, an absolutely beautiful, charming, and emotional journey that's heightened by an incredible soundtrack, stunning art-like visuals, and engaging characters and interactions that make this a must-play. It won't challenge you like the other Persia titles, but if you let it, it will suck you into its world and you won't want to leave. All hail the Prince.
It was hailed as the largest airborne invasion ever put together. It was simple. Get some trucks up a highway and be home by Christmas. But it's never that easy.
The military-themed war shooter market is dominated by the Call of Duties and the Battlefields these days. But there was once a time where gamers were absolutely spoilt for choice. And while most fondly remember the Medal of Honor series, the long-dead franchise that holds a special place in my heart is the Brothers in Arms series. And yeah, it's kinda weird how often the last entry in the series is completely forgotten about, as it's an absolute blast. Brothers in Arms Hell's Highway is one of the most gritty, bloody, and tense World War II shooters to ever grace consoles, and is still a true joy to play thanks to its combining of tight FPS gunplay and Gears of War style-esque cover-based shooting. And the glorious, cinematic, oh so satisfying slow-mo kill cams. Oh, I love them. Yeah, sure, this one merged a lot of what was popular at the time, but it really does work so goddamn well. And while I do get the gripe that the game's tone was changed a little from previous entries and was far more bombastic, drama-filled and cinematic, but for me this change just heightened the overall experience and did a solid job of making you relate and care for your squad, and understand the horrors of war and how it can affect those involved. Throw in some light tactical squad management, and you have yourself a war-torn experience that's up there with the best on the console.
You follow orders or you die.
Right, and that is the video there and there, guys. I'm a bit under the weather, so I probably sound way more nasally than I normally do. What games from major franchises do you think are severely underrated? Let me know, any I missed down below. And as always, until next time, you guys stay tipsy.